All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, December 20th Board of Selectmen meeting. It being about 7 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order and get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. So, Chief Grace, if you can lead us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, great. Do we have anyone here this evening for citizens input? No. Okay. Before we get started, I was just saying too, we do have a really packed agenda, and I'm going to try to keep us as close to the agenda as we can. So if I start giving you like signals during your part, it means your time's starting to wrap up. So that's for everyone here. So the first item that we have is an alteration of premises for Union Straw. Because of a conflict of interest I have with Union Straw, I am going to step off for this one, and the rest of the board will lead this. Seth Ferguson is coming. He just had a personal commitment, so he will be here at some point, maybe about 7:20 or so, but we'll get started without him, and you'll see him join at some point. All right, so we do have a public hearing that Dennis will read.
Okay, the Board of Selectmen, acting as a local licensing authority pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 138, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, December 20th, 2022, beginning at 7:05 p.m. in the Gala Meeting Room, Town Hall, 40 South Street, Foxborough, Mass., on the application of Kitchen Partners, LLC, Inc., doing business as Union Straw, manager Craig Carrera, 8 Mechanic Street, Foxborough, Mass., the premises for alteration of premises for an annual all alcohol on premises license. All interested parties are welcome to attend.
Great. Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Yourself?
Good.
Excellent. Want to introduce yourself?
Craig.
Here's our GM and
I'm the
manager.
General Manager at Union Straw.
Excellent. Jimmy Brown, resident Foxborough, also partner at Union Straw and Kitchen Partners LLC.
Travis Kessock, Congdon Circle, partner, Kitchen Partners LLC.
Welcome.
Excellent.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry guys, I'm so sorry. I was logged into the wrong date on my thing, so I'm just getting all of a sudden I'm like, oh wait a minute, I'm not on the right date. Okay. All right, so why don't you tell us what's going on? What do you guys? What's the alteration of premises? What?
Yeah, thanks so much. So we're here to get permanent license or permit
Alteration of premises.
Alteration. Thank you so much. Lost for words there. For our garden area. So we've already got that on our patio.
Yep.
And the patio is a fenced-in area, and we have had the temporary permits through the pandemic for the last 3 years through the temporary permit process, and based on the email that we received and all the surrounding businesses received, that we're not sure how that's going to play out for 2023. We thought we'd get a jump on that and look to get a permanent permit for our garden area. So this is an area, and we have pictures that we can share as well. I could bring them up or just hold them up, whatever's easiest for you, which is just outside of the gated area and off, sort of wardened off by ropes. And these are, this is an area that the ABCC has already greenlit for us and approved for liquor and beer consumption. They are served by our servers and sat by our hosts and hostesses and used through our reservation system. And we're just looking to now make this permanent and move it forward as part of our regular occupancy.
If I may say a couple words too. So if you visualize the building and the road and the patio, this is the area between the fence and the building. It's a small little area, about 24 by 14. It's got, how many tables, Craig? Four tables of 4. And based on, what we've experienced, Craig, you can say this firsthand, what we've experienced at the restaurant is there definitely is some, even though the viruses, things are subsiding a little bit, there is very much so an interest around health and eating outdoors. And we want to be respectful about that and make it so that we can get as many people outside as possible so they're comfortable.
Yeah, I think you're correct. It seems that people, it's not even just the virus anymore. People like to dine outside. So you're absolutely correct. And Bill, can you refresh me, where where are we as far as, are we, this has gone through planning, or are we're gonna get the, we're gonna get the okay for this to come to us and us to be able to?
This area has already been reviewed by the planning board. It's also an area that they've already more or less had in place already. It's just now they're converting it from a temporary dining area to a more permanent dining area based on the change that we've been told that the temporary outdoor dining provisions may disappear as early as March of this next year. So what they're doing is getting their oar in the water now to get those, to get their license in place so that they can actually not have to worry about that deadline if it comes and suddenly they have to stop serving it in the outdoor premises.
And we're, as a board, we're gonna vote it sometime just to let it continue after it's been, so basically, if they do this as soon as it comes to us, they're ready to go.
Right.
No,
Exactly, right, yeah.
yeah.
So the other ones that don't have that opted not to go for the permanent space will have to cease that dining opportunity once the license, the temporary license expires.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though, we're voting on that tonight.
We're voting.
on the approval
yeah.
or not approval tonight.
License,
Yeah.
right, yes.
Yeah, no, for their license.
But then it goes back to the ABCC.
Yeah, that,
Right.
theirs would go on.
Yeah.
back to
Once
the
we
ABC.
approve.
Yeah.
Right, exactly right.
Absolutely.
I came to the
Yeah.
planning board meeting, you guys are next, if it's approved, then ABCC would,
Yeah.
you'd have to put it.
Exactly right.
So we're gonna do this on a case by case.
Right.
Katie wants
Yeah.
to speak.
Oh, yeah,
Hey.
great, Kate.
No,
Yeah, let's just.
You guys just couldn't hear me for a little bit. Right, so this is in place. The ABCC has not voted on this. This goes to the Board of Selectmen first as the local licensing authority. Once you guys vote, it will go to the ABCC. So it won't be in place after tonight. It will have to go to the ABCC, which I'll send tomorrow morning, should the board approve. And then it's a 6 to 8 week turnaround for them to do their own investigation.
Yep. And we currently have the temporary permit through the end of the year, but we've actually closed outdoor dining, so this is so we can open it with the spring and be open on time.
That's going to be my question. You know what months you're going to operate it, but you just answered that.
Greg?
We usually shoot from like April to November,
Right. Okay.
mid-April. It just depends on how the spring transitions into, summerish
Right.
time. We noticed this year that it kind of tapered off a little bit earlier than it did last year when things were still kind of, in the mix of things. I think we shut down the patio early November, is where we finally pulled the plug on that.
We stretched ours a little longer than some of the other folks, again, trying to be respectful of folks that do have an interest in being outside, and like, I think when we were one of the few out there that were in November, we still, our patios are open, so.
This is actually a good time to do this, especially with a 6 to 8 week window for approval from the ABCC. Hoping they'll turn it around quicker than that, but typically that's what we've experienced.
Yeah.
And then Stephanie, just so you know, the planning board did meet on this on October 31st, and I have a letter in your packet of their approval as well. So they've gone through that process. And then also to note, even with the temporary outdoor dining, that went through health, building, fire, and police as well. So they were also on board with this section of additional areas.
Yeah. Well, my opinion on it in general is, the more space I work in the restaurant business, so the more space you can have, I mean, restaurants, whether it's just COVID in general, or just what's happening with pricing, and so restaurants took a pretty big hit. At the beginning, I feel like people were doing the best they can, but then people can only eat out so much and support their restaurants so much. But I think the more space you have to generate revenue is a good thing. So my opinion is I would, as long as it's approved through all the licensing, I would support any of the restaurants coming forward and giving you guys more opportunity to get some back of what was lost the last couple of years. So that's just my opinion on the outdoor dining in general. How about you guys?
It's our belief, too.
I think I support that certainly. And
Yep, I agree.
Okay.
Anything from the public?
Oh, that's correct. Yeah, anybody here from the public, like, anything to say? Have any comments, questions? Okay,
So
I think
motion
we're
to
ready for a motion.
Okay.
to close the public hearing first.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All those in any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve the alteration of premises for Kitchen Partners LLC, doing business as Union Straw.
Second.
Any other discussion? Nope. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. I'm a little rusty. Leah doesn't sit down from the seat too often.
Thank you, everybody.
Great.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate
Good
you.
luck with that.
Best of luck. Happy New Year.
holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, you too, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right,
See you guys.
Steph's already got us a minute behind.
There you go. That's not bad for me. Not bad for me.
All right, I love how much good news we have on tonight's agenda too. So up next, we have the police department for the accreditation and award presentation.
Now, we're going to start with the award presentation first. Good evening, everybody. I just want to thank you for allowing me this opportunity to recognize Ryan McGrath. I'm proud to announce that Ryan McGrath has been awarded the AAA of Northeast award as our Community Traffic Safety Hero of the Year. Each year, AAA of Northeast, which is made up of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, has a competitive application process based on performance and other safety initiatives to make one's community safe. Officer McGrath met and exceeded those standards, which resulted in him being recognized tonight. Over the past year, Officer McGrath attained his motorcycle certification and to better serve the community with traffic enforcement and visibility. Whether day or night, hot or cold, he was out there on the bike, stopping cars, answering calls, and driving through neighborhoods. And to the board, I do believe he crushed the my fuel line item. I didn't think someone could put that many miles on a motorcycle in a half a year. He wrote over 331 citations for motor vehicle infractions, and this equaled about 17% of the department's total. He had hundreds of other motor vehicle stops that resulted in verbal warnings. Every year since he's been hired, since 2017, Officer McGrath has been a very proactive in traffic enforcement. And this year, he's being recognized for it. The department also received numerous letters and emails of praise for his demeanor and kindness that he has shown to our residents and guests on calls for service, traffic stops, and helping disabled motorists this year. The importance of road safety in a community impacts everyone. As our local community grows, we attract more guests as a destination point, and we continue to see our local roads utilized as a cut-through because the surrounding highways can't handle the volume. Your efforts will be needed even more. Officer McGrath, the community and the department thanks you for your service and congratulations. So if you could step forward, I have an award. I believe you have some assistants who are going to join you. So Ryan's here with his wife, his 4 beautiful children, and his parents.
Didn't even see the little one there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We're gonna look that way. Hey, let's get everybody in here. Squeeze them in.
Look that way.
Oh, one more.
There you go.
Oh, perfect.
It isn't a family unless it's chaos, right? Awesome.
Just think of
Just want to shake your hand. You're all the way up here anyway. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you, congratulations.
Congratulations.
I'll send you those pictures.
Best of luck to you.
Part 2. I do believe, Leah, you referred to me, so I'm going to do my best, okay? So,
Hard.
It is, it's hard.
May or may not have been targeting you.
So, to my left, I have my Deputy Chief Richard Noonan, who is Accreditation Manager, Sergeant Adam Burns, who is the new Accreditation Manager, and Lee McCarthy, who is my Executive Assistant. This, and Sergeant Drayton, who couldn't make it, have primarily been the team leading to this moment of announcing our accreditation to the community and to the board. This was attained at the end of August. We received full accreditation from the Massachusetts Police Commission. To the right is the plaque. I didn't move it up, I'm sorry, that we're awarded. This will be outside of the window at the police department, so every guest who comes into the police department will notice and know that we're a recognized accredited police department, which means a lot. Our department received certification in August of 2021, and we have been working towards full accreditation since that time. I'm tremendously proud of our department and our accreditation team for rising to meet the standards outlined by MPAC. This award is not an individual award, but rather an award for the department as a whole. It's a reflection on how well we operate as an organization and how well we deliver police services to the residents and guests of Foxborough. And I also want to take a moment to thank the police union in this process. As we go through policies, many changes are made, and it's a teamwork. And their executive board was part of this. We worked together to solve the many differences, and it really just showed how well the department works together. Accreditation is a self-initiated, lengthy, comprehensive evaluation process. Participating departments complete an internal self-review and an external assessment by MPAC. The process is a voluntary evaluation by which police departments strive to meet and maintain the top standards in law enforcement. It is considered the best measure for a police department to compare itself against the established best practices from around the region and around the country. To achieve MPAC accreditation, the department had to meet and maintain the required 257 mandatory standards and 69 optional standards. The department also had to meet the new requirements of the Commonwealth's Police Reform Act of 2020 and the Post Commission. That's a very brief explanation of what accreditation is. But I do want to hand the baton over to now Deputy Chief Noonan, who has been leading this team for several years, and he's going to give a little breakdown about how we got here today. Deputy?
Thank you, Chief. Good evening. It's an honor to be here in front of you and the community to bring forward the Accreditation Award. I've been an accreditation manager for several years, so it's truly an honor to present this. And it's something that every department member and community member should be proud of. Like the Chief said, a lot of work went into this, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes. But as the Chief said, reaching accreditation is the golden standard in Massachusetts policing. It is the epitome of professional policing in Massachusetts. It's a highly recognized board of police professionals. They have standards that we need to meet, and not only do we have to meet them by language, but by how we act, and we have to prove compliance during the assessment of the department. So it's a robust program. It's very in-depth and detailed, and not every department has it. The Police Reform Act of 2020 requires departments to be certified. We're accredited. We're at the top of policing within the state. For us to reach accreditation, we needed to prove that our police operations, our investigations, our administration, how we conduct our everyday, day-to-day objectives meets the standards of quality policing. Within each standard, we have language that we need to meet, and we need to prove compliance with that. Right here is close to 100 policies, ranging from everything from how we respond to calls for service, how we conduct fiscal management, to how we conduct investigations. And that just touches the outline of how many of every topic of the policies. Without proper supervision, without proper training, these policies don't mean anything. All it is words on paper. But through our accreditation team, our supervisors, our command staff, we developed a robust training program for these policies to make sure that every officer knows what their roles and responsibilities are and have the competency to succeed in their position. So we've achieved a high level of policing, but more importantly, we do that on a day-to-day operations, and that's a accommodation to the command staff and every department member, as well as the first-line supervisors. For us to get there, we went from, when the chief and I first got on, we probably had like a little manual that we could barely find downstairs in the basement here. So now we have an online program. Officers are out in the street. They can access their policies and procedures via their phone or computer. We've come, full circle in how we treat our policies and procedures. We've had to make upgrades to the station. Even though it was a new building, we still needed to make upgrades to meet policing in the 21st century, in 2020. And honestly, with everything that we do, don't forget we're a small town police department responsible for Gillette Stadium. That's one of my major roles and responsibilities. I joke, but the only good thing that came out of COVID is that we were able to focus on our policies and procedures to get accreditation. A lot of work goes into police in Gillette Stadium, but also a lot of work goes into accreditation. Some departments have that's their only role and responsibilities, but Adam covers a shift, Lee does a million things, and every department member that has to review a policy and procedures isn't their only responsibility. So like the chief said, it was a department-wide initiative. We need to be reassessed in 3 years. Sergeant Burns is taking it over, so they've gone from 5th edition to 6th edition. So everything that we've done has to be revamped and reworked. So Sergeant, you got a lot of work cut ahead of you.
Congratulations. Right?
And Lee was our go-to person, and kind of formatting our policies and editing. I kind of just threw a bunch of verbiage in there, which he was able to edit it, and then obviously posting it online. It's a lot of work that goes into it. So. Any questions?
Just a comment. You make me feel like I'm retired. I come from the hospital industry, and accreditation was our world, in those 3 years. So I really get what it's all about. You need a leader, you need a team, you need policies and procedures. You need to actually follow the policies and procedures. They can't just be in that book. And then you're assessed, by experts that come in and look at the quality of your work. So it's a tremendous accomplishment, to get this accreditation. And I congratulate you, Chief Grayson, your whole department on this achievement, because I've walked in your shoes, and it's an extreme undertaking, and it's a wonderful result.
Thank you, sir.
And like Dennis said, the fact that you guys are doing this with the stadium, you have a whole nother challenge that not other communities have. So, really bravo to you guys for the professionalism, passion, dedication to roll this out, because it sounds like it's a lot of work. And, seeing Lee in action over at the stadium, man, she does a lot. So, you don't come in front of us as often, so I just want to say thank you to you as well, because it doesn't go unnoticed how you really kind of pull everything together. So it's really a great team. So
Yeah,
congratulations.
we can't lose Lee, I'll tell you honest.
We're really proud of you, and proud to be in this community and have you all keeping us safe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I think it's important to note, and I think Chief Grace, you identified with this, but I really like to have the Deputy Chief speak to the fact that the process for approving this through the state was done in an extraordinarily fast period of time because of how well you had this done. So can you just address that? Because I think it's an extraordinary measure of what you guys did.
So I'm also an assessor for the police commission, so I go to other departments and I conduct the assessment and evaluations, and sometimes I actually feel bad for the accreditation manager, because they're just running all day, like making changes, and I'm proud we had one word change.
Wow.
So it's just a really meticulous, paying attention to detail, and just experience of going to different departments and assessing them and kind of taking everything back and learning from them. But one word change is pretty impressive.
That's really impressive. Congratulations on that. That's an important part of the story to tell as well.
Yeah. Well done, guys. Well done.
Yeah.
And lady. I say lady because just one. Congratulations. Great job.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, next up, I see Mr. Stope is here. Anyone else coming with you? I
I
see
expect Mr. Weber's here.
Mr. Weber's here as well.
Zach is busy
Verizon Online.
Mr. Udine coming out.
there, but probably busy as well.
A representative online.
Oh, okay, great. Mr. Train? So he's from, okay. And I just didn't acknowledge too, we have Mr. Train here. Can you just speak so we can make sure we can hear you before we get started?
Sure, I'm Paul Train from Kirby Harrington Pinkett, representing Verizon.
I can kind of hear him, it's just very faint. So we might just have to turn him up a little. All right, wonderful. All right, great. So you guys are in front of us, I think, once a year, right?
Well, no.
Has it been longer than that?
It was, it's been a little longer than that, but that was because that was the Comcast
Okay,
contract that came up.
okay.
But that's now done for 10 years.
Okay.
This one after tonight will be done for 5.
Oh, okay, all right.
So we'll be back on this one in something less than 5 years.
All right, wonderful. So if you can just introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about.
Sure. Mark Stopa. I'm the chair of the Cable TV Access Advisory Committee for the town. Dave Uden is here.
I'm Dave Udine, and I'm a
sorry,
member
Dave.
of
I always
that
miss-
advisory
I always butcher that name.
I gotta tell you though, because you have a relative in town who people always say it the other way, and I've known you for, gosh, almost 40 years, and so I always feel like the outlier saying Udine.
Because it's not spelled that way. That's,
No, the
that's always
Army-
my problem.
The Army had a problem with that. Really.
I'll bet. And obviously, Michael.
Mike Weber, Executive Director for Foxborough Cable Access.
One on the-
And that's Mr. Paul Train. He's a representative from Verizon that we were working with.
All right, great.
And we have Mr. Paul Beck, who's in the Central Command back there. He was also an
Oz.
integral part of our committee. So hopefully you have the package in front of you.
Yes.
Okay, so, you know, obviously these processes take sometimes an inordinate amount of time. It just seems to drone on, but it's important things, all right? As we pointed out in that cover memo, we had a hit list of things that we felt that were very important for the community. We wanted to make sure that there was appropriate capital funding so that Mr. Weber and all of his staff can maintain the facilities and also improve and make sure that they're current with all the changes in technology. We needed to make sure we had an appropriate franchise fee for the PEG access, for the annual support there. As you might recall from the Comcast go-around, HD capability that's been kind of the leader, and I'm sure Mr. Train could tell you right from the get-go that was the lead, just like it was the lead with Comcast. And this time was a little bit easier just because the market conditions have changed and the cable companies are a little more accepting of some of those things. Didn't get everything we wanted, but we got what we needed, I think. There was an aspect of stereo capability. Verizon stepped up and helped with that without having to have the contract. They just said, yes, you're right, let's make that happen. Same thing with upgrading the encoders, which are important on the back end. And again, with that, Verizon stepped up. We merely had to ask, and they said, yes, we'll take care of that now, and that's been done. Closed caption improvement was also part of it. They stepped up and provided that upgrade as well. And as well as some playback improvements more on the technical side of things. The electronic programming guide, which is always a topic of conversation for us, we try. We were unable to get there, but we understand from both the Comcast and Verizon experience that that's just a technical problem. It's an incapability. Their system cannot support it. Somebody did explain it to me in more detail. Even if I remembered, I wouldn't bore you with that. Just will represent that we tried. Technology's not there yet. Maybe the next time around.
Excuse me, is that on the town side or Verizon side?
On the Verizon side, yeah, because their requirements spread over a wide number of locales, and they just can't handle the changes that would happen in a programming guide. And, you know, that's a point of frustration for us. We're constantly trying to find ways. We've even tried to get creative with backdoor ways to make that happen. It just doesn't seem to be available currently. Like I said, we're not going to give up on that. And convenient service center access and so forth, that's been a changing thing as well, because most of the cable companies, both Verizon and Comcast, don't, you know, it used to be we had just a place in town just for us, and then they went more regional. So we have appropriate language in there to make sure that people have access. So bottom line is the goals were largely reached. Would we prefer to have more HD stations? Of course we would. Again, maybe the next time around. But I think what we have negotiated and presented for you all is appropriate. And just touching on a couple of things, I probably didn't even bring the notes on that. I'm not sure if you need to have the detail on what all the funding is and so forth to the dollar. I can represent that the contract provides commercially reasonable funding, both on capital as well as the PEG access. That's up 4.75%. The capital is 31.5 a year for 3 years.
30,500.
30,500 per year. The first payment comes 45 days after the signing of the contract. And those are the key pieces.
Okay, great. Welcome, Seth. He joined while we were discussing. Any questions from the board on the packet or what's been presented?
Maybe we should ask Mr. Train if he wishes to add anything to what we provided.
Yeah, I'm Paul Train. I'm from Kirby Harrington Pinkard, outside counsel to Verizon. And first off, I just want to thank Mark and the advisory committee for all their cooperation over the many months. And as Mark noted, it's a negotiation, and there was a lot of give and take, but I think both sides feel good about it. I know Verizon does, and we're looking forward to provide service in the town for another 5 years.
Right, great. And it sounds like the committee is happy with where
Yes, the
we're at.
committee met and voted on this. Mr. Udine and I are the only full members. That everybody else is ex officio.
Okay.
So it was our hand raising that got it done.
It sounds like a lot of work to get it there too, so thank you for that as well.
Happy to do it.
Any other questions from the board before we move forward with a motion on this one? No. No?
No.
No?
All right, great. I think we're ready for a motion then.
Very good. Motion to approve the proposed Verizon New England Inc. cable television renewal license as negotiated by the Foxborough Cable Television Advisory Committee.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, wonderful.
Great
Thank you
job.
so much.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. If we can get at some point the signatures and so forth, and then I'll get it to our outside counsel, so he'll be the last signator.
Great.
All right, thank you so much for your work on that. Thank you for coming in tonight. All right, great. With more good news now, we follow up with the fire department. We've got another award tonight, and then we also have an annual review of the fire department. So this is our department update after the award as well.
So I think Bill wanted to recognize firefighter Corey Shepardson.
Yes.
He was recently recognized by the State Fire Marshal's Office and the Department of Fire Services. He received an award of merit for participation in saving a gentleman's life on a flight to Colorado. So firefighter Shepardson was flying to Colorado. Actually, a department friend from North Attleboro had passed away from cancer, retired Captain Jack White. His name was being added to the firefighters memorial out in Colorado, and he was with a couple of North Attleboro firefighters, and the gentleman went into cardiac arrest thousands of feet over the country. So he was recognized, that they were submitted and recognized by the governor and state fire marshal's office. So.
Wow. And how special that you're making the trip out for that, and then something like that happened on the flight. It really is kind of serendipitous, so that you were there to save someone's life. That's amazing.
Team effort.
An unexpected twist. Was that on the way there or the way home?
On the way, it was about like 7 o'clock, about 30 minutes after takeoff at 6 in the morning.
Wow. Wow.
We were sleeping.
Not for long, right?
Yeah, right. That'll wake you up.
So coincidentally, they had some medical equipment. They were able to start IVs.
Wow.
They had a defibrillator on the flight, so it worked out well.
Wow.
Who knew they had all that stuff on
I
the
know.
plane?
I'm sure
And
that gentleman
did the
is
flight
family.
continue, or did you guys have to come down?
We were landing in Midway anyways. They actually consulted us
okay.
and asked if we wanted to continue or if we should make an emergency landing. The time that it was going to take to make the emergency landing, we were going to be in Midway anyways, so we coordinated with Chicago Fire from the air, and they had an ambulance land. As soon as we landed, they had an ambulance meet us and take the patient off the plane.
Wow.
Wow.
That's an amazing story.
Do you know if the person survived?
Yes, he did.
That's
He's actually from Peterborough, New Hampshire, and he was actually discharged. He was on his way out to his sister's wedding. He was able to make his sister's wedding.
Wow.
Still made
Wow,
it.
that's
Glad I asked.
amazing.
That's even better.
That's amazing. And were you just recently somewhere else serving something, doing some kind of, I feel like there was some kind of disaster that you were helping with as well.
He was.
You were down in
So,
Florida,
yeah,
right?
tell us about that too.
I'm also a member of the FEMA USAR team, so I was in Florida for 14 days after Hurricane Ian.
Wow. Keeping you busy, saving lives.
Corey just loves this stuff, so I mean, he's good at it, and we're all very proud of him, so thank you for
Thank
doing
you.
that.
We're very proud of you as well, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, great. Thanks.
Lucky.
All right, great. So if the rest of you gentlemen want to introduce yourselves, and then we'll go into our annual review for the fire department.
All right, I'm so excited to be here. Hopefully Christina can get us with the IT. We'll see. Chief Michael Keller, I'm your fire chief. I have my staff with you. You guys can introduce yourselves, Tom.
Tom Buckley, Assistant Fire Chief.
David Larissy, Deputy Fire Chief.
Tom Kenneman, Deputy Fire Chief.
So,
Here we go.
All right, there we go.
all right, here we go.
Mike's presentations always look so nice.
We try. So we just wanted to give you a quick update. I know you guys are on a time crunch, so we'll try to make it
No,
quick.
I think you've got a half an hour.
Did you?
but yeah.
Mike Grace talks a lot, so
Yeah. Yeah.
Chief Grace can chew up a clock. So we'll just give you updates. So there's really no format. We just want to tell you about some initiatives that we're doing, some things that we have in the works. Tell you guys about some of our calls. So just have a nice chat. So if you have a question, it's pretty informal. Just let me know.
Okay.
Get the point to the window.
They have to point it.
Turn on the button on the side.
Oh, that might help, huh?
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Just point it. All right. So, obviously, again, I'm Chief Michael Keller. These are some of the, the program areas that I oversee as the chief of department. Obviously, emergency operations deployment. We have a training and professional development program. We have an apparatus, pretty extensive apparatus maintenance program, which I'll get into more. Finance grants. I'm still the primary liaison to SEMRECC, and then we do emergency preparedness and management. So. I just want to give you an update on our personnel. We had some retirements this year. Captain Dave Healy, Captain Edward Noonan, Firefighter Tim Cotter, and Firefighter Mike Wellahan all retired this year. I think the junior of those employees had over 25 years of service to the community, and we were, some of those guys were pushing 40 years of service to the town. So people that work in our department work for the community for a long time. There's a lot of investment there on the part of our members. We had 2 resignations. And then we had several new hires. Firefighter Harry McComb, he's a town resident, grew up here, veteran of the U.S. Army. Firefighter Jeff Islari is a resident of Norfolk. Firefighter Alex Noonan is the son of Captain Edward Noonan. Firefighter Alyssa Marcoux and Firefighter Keith Hamilton, both were lateral transfers we just hired recently. So Firefighter Islari graduated from the Fire Academy in March of this year, and in April of this year, Firefighter Alex Noonan graduated from the Academy as #1 in his class. He was awarded the Richard M. Banks Award from the Massachusetts Fire Service, so that recognizes him as the outstanding recruit and the top in his class. He's the 3rd member of Foxborough Fire in the last 20 years. Pushing 30 years now, Tom got that.
Were you a recipient of that?
I was.
Oh, congratulations. Okay.
So that's an update on our personnel. You can see there's Corey next to Governor Baker looking uncomfortable. And, the personnel, that's the most valuable asset that we have as a department. So we try hard to take care of. You'll notice a theme in my presentation. So this is, I wanted to talk about some technology that we're deploying with SEMRECC. This is kind of a fascinating case. This happened a week ago. So last Friday night, actually not even a week ago, Friday night, a lady was riding her mountain bike in the middle of the state forest, fell off her bike, shattered her ankle. State forest is challenging because, the geography, we have a hard time accessing it. We don't always know where they are. We've deployed a program called What 3 Words? So when we get latitude and longitude coordinates when we get a 911 call, what this program does is it extrapolates that coordinates into just 3 simple words. So we all have an app on our phone, so when we enter the 3 simple words, it gets the coordinates down to a 3 meter by 3 meter square. And if you can just click the next. So you can see that's the app. So the words that, if you look on the left, that's all the CAD data that we get on our cell phones from SEMRECC. You'll see buried in there down, you see the what three words? Random.timetables.absorbs. That correlates with that 3 meter square that's in the middle of the woods. So you can click it again. So that's where they are. They're within the state forest. So we were able to get an exact location of where they were. And then click the last one. You can see we can actually physically walk right to the person. So it was a really good outcome. The paramedics were able to give her some pain medication before they had to extricate her from the woods. It took quite a while, some manpower, and she wasn't on a trail, so it was in the middle of nowhere. But 5 years ago, these calls were a nightmare because we were trying to figure out where the person was. But now we walked right to them with no issue, no fanfare, and the call was taken care of. So that's just some of the technology we're deploying because we're a member of SEMRECC, and we can trial this stuff and afford to purchase the software with grant funding and such. So the next thing I want to talk about, and we kind of touched on it with Corey. He's traveling out there for one of our local firefighters from North Attleboro who passed away from cancer. Cancer in the fire service is an issue that's really kind of risen to the surface. You can see on the right-hand side of the screen there, those are all cancers that firefighters are at a greater risk to contract as a result of occupational exposure, not only to the toxic products of combustion, smoke, and things like that, but also, just recently in the last couple of years came to light that the turnout gear that we wear, it's kind of iconic. When you think of a firefighter, you think of the black coat with the green stripes and things like that. Well, unfortunately, that coat is laden with chemicals that, is flame retardant, but it's also cancer causing. One of those being PFAS. So one of the challenges we have is, with our job, obviously that equipment protects us, but it's also an exposure. So we had a challenge on our hands. And one of the challenges is, kind of gauging that middle ground of, when do we put on the turnout gear? When is it, safe to not wear it? So, when I first got on, there's no better winter coat in the world than a fire coat. It's I call it the adult snowsuit. But unfortunately, we really want to take time to minimize the exposure and make sure that we're not overexposing our firefighters. Obviously, that's a pretty extensive list of cancer that they're susceptible to get. So if you want to go up one slide. So what we did, so again, there's, last year we talked about our wellness initiatives, keeping people healthy, eating healthy, all the exercising and physical conditioning that the firefighters are doing. This year, one of the things we needed to do is really identify when is it appropriate to be wearing turnout gear and when is it not. And again, we leaned on SEMRECC, working with the staff up there to utilize the technology that we have and really kind of combine that with our response and figure out how can we tell these people when it's reasonable to wear turnout gear and when it's not. So again, we have a pretty extensive call taking system that Foxborough probably, it's a couple of $100,000. We have 37 primary call types. And I went through them with Rob Verdone. We painstakingly kind of went through, pinpointed the type of calls, and we tweaked our response. So now the firefighters know when they go out the door, if, based on risk, and that's again, we're assessing risk and analyzing risk, do they need to put on their turnout gear or is it safe to not put on their turnout gear? So if you look on the right, that's the response cadence. So alpha being the lowest priority, echo being the highest priority. So if we have an echo level call, that's a hot call, it's like that's a building fire, that's a cardiac arrest. Those are real high priority critical calls. So when we talk, we have two different kind of sides of this response, medical and fire. So when we talk about a fire response, what we said was anything that's basically Charlie, Delta, or Echo, we're going to wear turnout gear. If it's an Alpha or Bravo level call, we're not going to wear turnout gear. So that'll reduce our exposure. Now, our apparatus is engineered in such a way that the gear is stored in a compartment that's separate from the cab, so they're not breathing in those, those hazardous fumes that are off-gassing from the gear and things. So. And then on the medical side, what we're also doing with this software is we're tweaking our medical responses also. So an alpha level medical response, which would be something minor, to us minor, but again, to the average citizen might be an emergency, but someone has a nosebleed, it's a frequent call. We just send the ambulance, we don't send the fire truck. We preserve that resource, we save the wear and tear on the vehicle, and we just send the ambulance to that. Echo correspondent, if we have an echo response, we're going to send multiple pieces because those are higher critical calls. So a Bravo level call, for example, we'll send the ambulance, lights and siren. and we'll send the engine with the flow of traffic, so we're not, again, reducing that risk, because, the engine obviously responding lights and siren increases the risk to motorists and increases the risk to our members. So those are some of the initiatives we're doing to kind of reduce those occupational health risks. And again, utilizing existing technology. I think that the big benefit here is that we're able to afford that technology because we're part of SEMRECC, we're part of that bigger consortium, so.
Chief, when is the next generation of equipment going to be available so that we don't have to worry about your exposure to PFAS and stuff like that anymore? That just seems like we should fix that.
Yeah, that's what the industry's waiting for. That's the big question. Because as they work with the manufacturers and things, it's very difficult to engineer a lot of that stuff out of the process and still keep people safe. So unfortunately.
I was
not
going to
there.
ask you, is that even going to happen? Because maybe that's the stuff that's protecting you. But, so the guys have, so the air is tucked away in the truck, and so they get like, when you watch on television, they come in, their coats go right on, and they go into the truck, hats are on, everything. So even just that little time that you're not sitting in a truck, breathing it and stuff, so it's all tucked away, and when they get to a scene, if it's a call that they need it, they
So
get to
if
the
we get-
scene, and that's when it goes on?
If we get a call for a building fire, they'll put it on before they go. They'll come down.
Oh, okay.
It's all like set up by the truck.
Yep.
They'll get in it and go.
Yeah.
But if it's like wires down, electrical power lines down, or carbon monoxide detector, or someone calls and says, hey, my smoke detector's beeping, we used to have the mentality, like, we always have to be ready, we always have to. Now we're getting so much information from the caller, it makes sense we need to utilize that. So we have the data, we have the information, so we need to use that now to make good decisions, on the other end for our occupational health and safety.
Yeah.
So I think it's good, and we never really had the access to that data and information, so we're not utilizing that to its
How
extreme.
long has it been that this has really been discovered and that you're changing your procedures? Is it short period of time, like within the last year, or is it, has this been
It's been like,
coming?
it's been like weeks.
Oh,
Most fire
yeah.
departments are really struggling. This has come out, I don't know, what do you think, 6 months?
Yeah, it really gained traction about 6 months ago.
So we were working with the firefighters union to come up with because everyone's struggling with it. So that's when we really sat down and we started to analyze our call types. Not a lot of communities in Massachusetts have the software that we have to be able to do this.
So, Madam Chair, this is the appropriate time for me to announce something which I think is extraordinary. So these guys have been talking about something that happened 6 months ago. And they sat down and said, let's figure out a way to address it. And then they were able to use the technology available to them through SEMRECC to come up with a very innovative approach. So much so that they reduced it to writing and submitted it to the MMA and won the state award for innovation this year, and it'll be presented at the annual meeting in January. So congratulations to the department and to SEMRECC for working collaboratively on such a great effort and obviously they found this to be an extraordinary thing too. So much so that it was going to be recognized as being one of the top innovation projects in the state this year.
amazing.
Yeah, it was exciting. So, and it's an issue industry-wide, and a lot of people are trying to figure out how to address it, and we were able to address it.
And unfortunately, it's going to, everything you guys do now, it's going to probably take years to collect the new data to find out if these different cancers and different health issues are going down. So it's not even like an overnight, you say, okay, we're going to do this. You're not going to know for a while what the impact really is unless you get different equipment made with different materials. That might, but it's going to, at least you're on the right track to.
Trying, yeah.
Ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And honestly,
exactly.
a lot of our retirees have had different, prostate cancer is very prevalent. A number of our retirees have had prostate cancer, so it is something that's real, it's
Yeah.
not, we've seen it on a firsthand level, so. The other thing I wanted to remind everybody, so we were talking to Doc the other day at the town manager's office, we were talking about the, motor vehicle accidents and things like that, so we respond to about 300 motor vehicle accidents a year. This year, we've had 10 fatalities, just, a couple in the community, but we're on Route 95 and 495 every day. So we have serious motor vehicle accidents out there. you don't often hear about them because, you know, the police don't respond. We're working with a whole another police force, the state police, and then, you know, Mass Highways does just keep waiting for them to have a state fire department, but we're stuck with the highways until they do that. We're using the jaws of life probably about once a month to cut somebody out of a car. This particular motor vehicle accident happened back in October that you can see in the background. It was an SUV. It had 6 young men from the Boston area that were coming back late night from Providence. They rolled over. They weren't wearing seatbelts. Three of them were ejected. One was critically injured in cardiac arrest on scene. Two had, again, critical injuries. 2 of them succumbed. One of them was the third patient was critically injured, as life-altering injuries. But these are the scenes that we face out there, and oftentimes, you know, we're out there first because the state police cover a wide area, so our firefighters are out there, and it's dangerous out there at night. Like, yeah, one thing that keeps me up at night, it's our firefighters on the highway. You know, we talk a lot about occupational health and safety, but that's the one area where, you know, we're really at risk, because you see this, people try to drive through this, it's in the middle of the night, it's dark, people are impaired. You know, our people are out there trying to save lives and help people, and, you know, they have to have your head on a swivel out there.
Does the data suggest that there is an increase of accidents in that stretch of 95 for sure? I feel, okay, you're getting there?
Yeah, that's certainly, I mean,
Because I feel like everyone talks about it and feels like it, but is the data there, and is there anything that we can do, like at the state level, to even bring that up, or, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't, you know, it's something I think a lot about.
Yeah.
But it's certainly, we certainly noticed an increase, definitely severity, like the injuries, the engineering of the vehicles really kind of, and with seatbelts, took shape, and we certainly saw a reduction over the last 25 years in the significance of the injuries, but the last 2 years, really kind of COVID, it seemed like people were driving faster. It seemed like we had an increase in accidents. Maybe there's reduced road traffic. I don't know what the issue is.
But I'm curious if it's higher. So if we saw it there, did other areas see it, or is this kind of like a standout area where it's exceptionally high? Yeah. Particularly that section, like between, I'm going to say exit 7 and 8. I don't even know what it is anymore, but you know, that area.
Yeah, we are seeing an increase. I don't know if it's the entire quarter.
It's like right by that mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually were stuck for about an hour. There was the young boy from Easton that, I think I saw, there was multiple, we saw ambulances going by Sharon, Mansfield, because I think there were 4 cars involved.
I think there was one even the week after, too.
Exactly. It was like right there, like bing and bing in that little stretch. And you kind of think to yourself, it's maybe because it is straightaway there. Yeah. People they're driving a little faster, or, you know, it's a funny place why, like you said, it was like a week later, 2 bad accidents right there.
Yeah, so it's just something we deal with.
Yeah, even that 495-95 exchange.
Yeah,
that's like heavy too, you know. So.
That off ramp from 495 north to 95 south, that is a hot spot. That's one of the worst. It's over-engineered, so we have a lot of tractor trailers roll over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you remember the jet fuel tanker, Tom was the captain at the time. We had a jet fuel tanker probably 10 or 12 years ago roll over there. So we can.
All right, so real quickly, I'll just go over some of the things that, you know, that worked in my office. So I'm the human resource liaison between the fire department and the HR department and the community. Like the chief was talking about, all the retirees, so they all come in my office at the beginning with their letters and walk them through the process and their last days and time off and things like that. And then with all those people who are leaving, now we have to set up the fact that we have to hire somebody. So I take care of all that aspect of it. Applications come in, chief and I vet them. We're working on it right now. We have 2 longtime employees leaving in January. So we're in the process now of replacing them, right after they leave. The Gillette Stadium liaison, so in any functions or anything going on at Gillette Stadium, they come through my office. I deal with them with logistics, anything that they need from the fire department aspect, permits or things like that. So anything like the pyro and all those different aspects, and we'll talk a little bit about that again in a couple of slides here. So that one of those things. So Staffing, again, is up there. I am also the accreditation manager. We're still working on ours. We started our process in the fall of 2019, and then that ugly thing, COVID, hit, so it put a damper on a lot of our work on that aspect, but we're back on track. We're hoping that we'll be able to get the team to come in this year, and we'll have an answer by the end of 2023.
And you'll be what number department in the state being accredited?
We'll be the first municipal department in the state, yeah.
That's
So the only other one is Westover Air Force Base. That's a military base, so we're working on it. Office also assists Deputy Larissy in fire prevention, anything, large projects, things like that. We'll sit down and go over them together and work through any of the issues that we may see. And I work on some of the special projects going on. You can switch. So this is just real quickly, this is just a sick leave analysis for the department. Actually, the slide's kind of hard to see. The top bars are 2020, the middle's 2021, and the bottom one is 2023. And it just shows you the different aspects of the sick time, long-term sick leave / family medical leave that they're utilized. So this year we did we did using more sick time and more FMLA due to we've had 3 long-term illnesses. We had one employee who had a foot surgery, so he's been out. He's still out, anticipating coming back the first week of February. We had another employee was out for about almost 2 months for a personal reason, and then we had another employee out for 6 weeks with neck surgery. So those were all aspects of where that was. Family sick, those are usually, all those is new dads. So most of that is new dads, taking care of newborns and things like that. So we did have a number of new family members added to the department. You can switch. So injured on duty, IOD claims, we don't have a lot. In reality, we had 5 claims this year with Cabot Risk. We had 5 employees with lost time. We had 2 back injuries, an eye injury, a crushed finger, one of the apparatus, and an avulsion of hands, which is actually just pulling of the skin off the hand. So a total of 238 hours of lost time, but in all reality, that wasn't a lot, so we do pretty good on that aspect. One of the things, you can go to the next one. So Gillette Stadium for last year, we had 54 licensed events last year. All of those require meetings, multiple meetings, between the fire department and the craft organization, and it's before every sold-out event with public safety, so state police, things like that at the stadium. Just to show, I put up there was 41 in 2021. That was the coming out of COVID, but we had 54 this year. And as you know, we're on track for one heck of a year next year. One of the things that we did this year, so Ramstein came in this year. That actually started, they flew out and met the chief and I in January of 2019. They actually flew out and sat down with us, and went over their whole, the show and what it was. Yeah. So we were ready for them, and then obviously COVID hit, they canceled for 2 years, and then they were put back on track and they're coming. So we're actually still like, we have no idea. You go online and watch these guys. It's mind-blowing. So we actually, a couple of us went down to Philadelphia the week before, and we got credentials to actually go and work with the Philadelphia Fire Department and the production team. And we got to see all of this before they came here. We had a pretty good feel of what was going on, but to actually see it and see how professional that whole team was really an eye-opening, and it gave us all a very comfortable background and able to know that they would come here and have a safe show. I don't know if the video will play. If you click on the video, click on the picture. No. So one of the things with them that we didn't really realize, not to get into the nitty-gritty of it, because we were all very worried about storing propane or whatever they use, and they don't use any gas at all. That's all powder. It's a flammable powder. The lead singer is, he's a firebug, yeah. Pyro guy. And he actually has burnt himself so many times, he got certified to be a pyrotechnician all over the world. They're all East German. They're all from East Germany, the whole band. And but just to actually see how it's all of it is a powder. So they blow the powder up and they ignite it, and then the product is gone. So there's really no danger, but it's hot as heck. And so we got to actually see all of the different props they were using. A lot of it is a optical illusion. You think that they're lighting each other on fire, they're really not. But it really worked out well. So then, now, obviously, next year, we have Army-Navy coming. So Army-Navy, they invited us down about 2 months ago to a tabletop exercise. So we went down to Philly again. They're great people down there, just the stadium area. A lot of good contacts and friends now. But we went down there again, and we actually got to sit as observers to watch Philadelphia Fire, Police, State Police, the whole gamut, FBI, Secret Service, the whole 9 yards, and going through a tabletop for this event coming next year. And it was very eye-opening, and just to realize the logistics and everything that it all entailed. During that meeting, they actually invited us back to the game. So we actually went down, was that last weekend? 2 weeks ago? It's all blended together. Yeah, so we went to Philly again. So we actually got to go to the game. We got to see the opening ceremony and things like that. So just to see the aspect of what it takes to put that event on. So when they come here next year, there's going to be 110 buses just for the midshipmen and the cadets. So just to see that and just the logistics aspect and how they're all going to make this happen. It'll be interesting when it comes to Foxborough, because it's not going to all be in Foxborough. So Philadelphia is a city. They have a whole system there for their stadiums. But when it comes to next year, the ball is going to be held in Boston. The naval midshipmen are being housed down in Providence. So there's a lot of different moving parts, and we're really excited about it. There's some things that they're working on. I'm not going to say them right now because it may not happen, and then it'll be a letdown. But it's going to be really exciting for the community to have this whole event come here. So it is really exciting. So we've already started. The meetings are going to start next month, and we're going to meet monthly up until December. So just little aspects of that. That's it.
All right, hello everyone. So tonight I just wanted to give you an update on some of the projects that have been going on in town, a lot of the commercial projects and stuff. So I oversee all the inspections, permitting, pretty much all the safety that happens on job sites and the safety planning with the construction companies. So tonight I just wanted to go over a few projects that the board and maybe people at home might be interested in seeing and knowing what's going on in their town. So Schneider Electric, they're officially closed on 38 Neponset Ave. So we've been working with them to decommission that building. So the machinery's gone, all the processing's gone, all the chemicals are gone. They've been abating the asbestos for quite a while now. They're going to be in their second phase of abatement on the far end, which they're going to have to shut down the sprinkler system to do it for a while. So we're coordinating fire watches and such with that. This building now, the whole perimeter has been secured with fencing, with only fire department access at this point, no public access. The code requires that the sprinkler and fire alarm system remain in place under all conditions, no matter what they do with this building as they move forward. They have right now a 2-year plan of getting this building to a point that they may be able to do something with it, whether it's sell it, repurpose it or whatever. But with this building here, I've been working with Dave McMillan there, and he asked me to offer up to the board and Bill that maybe that you would want to conduct a site visit yourself to see what the building, it's a massive building, and until you walk that building and walk that property, the railroad track, the whole perimeter, like that area, until you see it and get an understanding, I think it'd be great for us all to go out, walk it, get an understanding of what it looks like, so in the future, when they come to you and say, we're thinking of doing this, you'll have an idea of what they're talking. It's a really big building, and it's really cut up and it's old. That building has been in constant use since 1894, 128 years. That the Foxborough company, bought that, off the electric company back in the 1900s. But I think if you wanted to coordinate something after the New Year's or something and do a site visit, they really would like to see the board come out and see what they're doing. They're very proud of the way they're making this safe for the community.
We did a site visit at the new building too, and they were very complimentary on how great it was to work with everyone with the inspections and everything kind of at the new building, so
Yeah.
good
Oh,
job with that as well.
That's good, yeah, and that building, that might be a little to add too, is a lot of the, there's no manufacturing in Foxborough anymore, but the testing and all the data and stuff has been moved over to 70 Mechanic Street, and, they're looking forward to continuing along, a long history of business in Foxborough. So this is Freedom Wind. So Freedom Wind is an indoor skydiving building, very unique. You're not going to see many of these around. This building is 124 feet high, well, it will be when it's done. What you see is below that green there, that's going to be an open area, and that's going to be glass so you can watch people skydive. So you're going to have the ability for a novice to skydive at an elevation of about 10 feet off the floor. Professionals are going to have the ability to practice their skydiving up to 60 feet. So this building, it has multiple layers that are still going to keep getting added to it. And at the top, there's going to be a fan. The fan has 15-foot blades on it. And the way this actually works is the air gets pushed down to that tunnel on the left, and it goes through a couple other tunnels. And the way that the tunnels, the tubes are configured, it actually helps it pick up airspeed. So the air is coming from the floor and picking you up. So it's not generated from the floor, it's generated from the top down. So one of the challenges that we had here is, how do we protect this building with sprinkler and fire alarm? What protects us? It's unique. If we have such an airflow, what type of system is gonna work with this? So we've been working with a third-party engineer who's very reputable on this. We've come up with we've worked with their engineers, and they came up with a design that would work. So this is really like unique to it, and it was pretty challenging for us, and we worked our way through it, and we're very happy with the outcome. And it's projected to be a 2.5-year project. 29 Wall Street, I just wanted to touch on this. This is a large residential complex that's built on Wall Street. A lot of people ask us what's going on, so I just wanted to touch on that. So this is in the old Grossman Lumberyard site, which is parallel to...
Really dating yourself.
So this is parallel to the railroad tracks. So we're hoping to get them all signed off, everything completed in about a month. So they had some delays with COVID as well with the supply chain. This main building, well, they're hoping for a month. The building out front, which is a separate building, it's about 4,500 square feet.
So they're not connected. It's hard to tell from the road when you drive by.
They're not connected, and we had a meeting about 2 months ago, maybe a little longer. They were proposing to do like a preschool childcare in there, but that fell through. So it's an unknown tenant at this time. It's going to be just a open space, and they'll do the build out in the future. But that's it for that. That's just a residential. This building is, they call it the TKG building. It's the Kraft Group. It was in the past, before when they tore the old one down, it was Building P. This building here is just essentially it's a big office building, and on the first floor they have virtual football. So they have a room so they can actually put on the screen that they can play like the Jets, like they'll do the Jets offensive line, a defensive configuration, and they can play it and they can go through plays. This building here, which was they had a little bit of a setback on this, so they built the frame, the foundation, the frame, all the steel was up, and then the craft group decided they wanted to go 2 stories higher in the future. So the building pretty much had to come to a stop. They put in all new footings, new steel supports and everything. In the process of doing this building, one of the things that we worked on, and we worked on what's called a 241 plan. It's a safety plan before they even started. It's an NFPA 241. And what we did at all times that they were doing hot works, we had 3 firefighters here pretty much every day for about 8 months maybe. And what we do is, on jobs like this, we like to have the firefighters have to be present when there's welding or cutting. But we always like to have a paramedic on site. So if anyone gets hurt in the town of Foxborough, we could say that our safety plan that was developed, with relation with the construction company, that we had that safety in mind at all times.
So that's one of the benefits of having one of our firefighters on the fire watch, is you get that dual role of a firefighter and a paramedic. So each paramedic goes to a fire watch detail, also brings medical equipment.
Yeah, so it's very beneficial. The North End Zone project, pretty much everyone knows about the North End Zone project, but this project here has been so time consuming on this. We have safety meetings probably every week and a half. We walk this site with the construction company, with Suffolk safety personnel. And what we do is we evaluate the scene and we look for hazards. So they take anything we say, any of our advice, they take it to heart and they implement whatever we want. We've had up to 7 firefighters up here at a time. So they've had underground work, they've had high angle stuff that they've been working on, but the biggest challenge on this is we've had 6 fires up there already. So our personnel have proven that they're needed up there, and we've had several medicals that the paramedics have also attended to.
And is that just paid for by the permitting fee, or is
No,
there?
that is, all those details are paid by.
Like a detail?
Yeah.
Okay.
Detail, we bill them.
Okay.
The construction company.
Yeah, the construction company, so we bill them. So on this site here, we started working probably a year and a half on the safety plan, the 241 plan that we said. We worked directly with Suffolk, and Suffolk has their own, they're so big, and this project is so complex, and there's so many phases, that they started developing this 241 plan before, like when they were drawing the plans, and they knew we were coming. They knew that they had to have a plan in place for us.
Is it scheduled to be done by the
video.
beginning of next season, or?
Yeah, so on this project here, the scoreboard, so they built, there's gonna be there's 2 flank ends of this end zone, and then the lighthouse will be the center point. The lighthouse was delayed, the material to build the lighthouse, so they built the right side, started putting the scoreboard on it. The building started to lean,
Oh, gosh.
because the lighthouse was gonna be the anchor point. So in order to secure that building so it didn't move anymore, they had to spend $1 million in temporary supports and stuff. And then that was that's why we had more guys up there. We're generating more, there's more welders, more action going on, so.
Wow.
So we have a video. So 2 of our firefighter paramedics that were on location were notified that there was an injury to one of the workers. In order to get to the worker, the firefighters were raised up by the crane, in a bucket in the crane, to attend to the victim that was hurt, and then they brought him down with the crane. It was impressive.
Then he's like, how are we gonna get him down? Like,
So you have 2 guys.
and that next day in the Brock Enterprise, he was on the front page, how he's trained in high angle rescues.
So when that happened, Suffolk they're like, thank God we had your paramedics here. Thank God that you guys had a plan put together that was ready for an injury that had, because if not, they would have to call an ambulance. We would have had maybe even a tech rescue team to get them down. So the plan that was in place worked, and they were very grateful that the town had invested the time to make sure that happened.
All right, well, thanks again for having us, folks. So this year's been a really busy year for us with the emergency medical services. As you saw, the chief put up a video, the picture earlier of the crash on October 2nd. That was one of many incidences that our paramedics are responding to. Our public health initiatives, we continue to work collaboratively with Human Services, our Council on Aging, yours truly, Christina Metcalf, who's been integral part of our vaccine clinics. We've been working closely with our hospitals as well. I wish we had better news for you with regards to Newark Hospital. We don't have any updates there, but in lieu of that, we've been working very closely with Sturdy Hospital. So we can touch on some of the things we've been working with them on. Quality improvement, so every call that we go on and our providers provide patient care has to be reviewed, critiqued, and if we find any patterns from that, we'll develop training to kind of commensurate with that. And then we have tons of licenses that we have to incur and maintain in order to operate either our vaccine clinics or our ambulance service. So the last year, we've seen over 2,600 runs, requests for EMS, and when we look further in that breakdown, ALS stands for Advanced Life Support, where our paramedics will apply cardiac monitoring and provide interpretation, intravenous lines, advanced airways, and BLS is our basic life support, and that's one tier down from that, where patients who may not need that level of monitoring or patient care. So it's been getting very busy for us, and I think we've seen across the industries in the Commonwealth, workforce shortages are certainly affecting, taking their toll on healthcare industries, in particular private ambulance services. So our ambulances have been requested more and more often to support surrounding communities and surrounding medical facilities.
Excuse me.
Go back 1 second,
Question.
please.
So Norwood Hospital had one of the busiest ERs in the state,
Yes.
and a very active paramedic program as well. How are you managing that? How is that really impacting you? Because you must be getting a lot of that overflow. People probably don't think about it or appreciate it, just to get your perspective on.
I think more for the providers, our call volumes are increasing. I think that we're seeing people who are more inclined. We have different ways, as the chief alluded to earlier, to communicate with 911. You can text 911 now. So we're getting people who require services have better access to that care. But in terms of Norwood Hospital, that void that's been created with their absence, Sturdy Hospital has taken in an enormous amount of patient influx, as well as the surrounding hospitals, B.I. Needham, Milford, Good Sam. We've seen increased runs to Boston, increased runs to Rhode Island. So these hospitals are really trying to absorb the overflow that Norwood Hospital had initially taken on. And we see this in particular, too, when we have our stadium events, such as either concerts or Patriots games. Chief Buckley would build out our medical plans, and we're seeing our hospitals go further and further away in order to compensate for this loss.
I just want to make one more point on that. So from a regional perspective, Massachusetts is kind of very focused on Massachusetts. But right before Norwood Hospital got flooded, Pawtucket Memorial Hospital, right over the line, closed.
That's right.
So all that volume.
I closed.
So all that volume now, obviously half it goes to Miriam and Providence, but half of that now goes to Sturdy. So now you take out Norwood Hospital, was it 60 or 80,000 visits a year? All that volume's now, crushing Sturdy, and then Good Samaritan's taking a lot of that. That's a very busy urban ER at Good Samaritan. So now you throw the mental health crisis on top of that. We have some serious problems.
And the impact on ambulances and the impact on the crews, because the crews get delayed because they have to go further distance to take the patient. And of course, the
Couple
impact
that
on the
with the
vehicle
fact
is even
that
worse.
private ambulance services can't staff anymore. They're really having a hard time retaining and recruiting employees. So over the last 2 weeks, we've had 2 instances where we brought patients in, high acuity patients, to our appropriate medical centers, and had to turn around and transport those patients again to another hospital because they couldn't get an ambulance. And that's actually becoming more commonplace. I know that Corey was at a call a couple weeks back. We had to spend 45 minutes in the ER bay waiting to bring a patient in because they were so full, they were so over census. So it's being felt across the spectrum, and we're trying to do our part. One of the things in the previous slide is where we were, because of the work that the men and women are doing, we were asked to participate in a neuroprotective study with the Rhode Island Hospital and Sturdy Hospital for stroke patients, as well as looking at ways to incorporate mobile integrated healthcare, trying to expand healthcare access at the local level to prevent those patients who may not need to be in the ER right away, but we can actually kind of extend as an extension of the ER and care for these people at home. So we were talking with Sturdy Hospital as recently as yesterday in terms of being included on the discharge plan for Foxborough residents who've come home and maybe trying to prevent that bounce back readmissions in the first 24 to 40 hours after discharge. Make sure that, someone has the ability to walk from the bedroom to the bathroom, make sure their heat is on, that they have power, things of that nature. I think one of the most exciting things that Chief Keller and Chief Grace have pushed through as an initiative is the onboarding of a community response social worker. And I think this is something that you may have seen in the news across the nation in terms of behavioral crises, mental health issues, in terms of responding in an acute setting. The chiefs have taken it a step further, where we're going to actually have a social worker who is a licensed independent clinical social worker who actually has the ability to write Section 12s and has more administrative oversight to give us more depth and perspective as we treat our mental health patients in the community, to provide real-time response capability to deal with crisis, protective services referrals as we see on scene. Also to provide an additional resource for our public safety responders. I mean, if we have a house fire, we have displaced residents, we have the ability to real-time provide those services, and also to have de-escalation techniques in the event of a tragic event. So we have someone there to actually help us tend to the behavioral needs real time. I think we all know how important that is. And it's, there are several iterations of this across the Commonwealth and across country, but I think this is the first one that really truly sets it as a responding member of a public safety department stationed, dedicated within the public safety building. And we also continue to provide our in-home medication reconciliations. We would administer medications to homebound patients and work on our vaccine administrations throughout the community. This year, we were able to collaborate more in depth with our school nurses. Now the COVID's kind of taken a slowdown. Our school nurses have been engaged with our vaccine clinics, hosting in different school locations. We're still providing disease surveillance and wellness and safety assessments, and that also coincides with what Chief Laris is doing with, fall safe and public education for seniors and youth. And we're really trying to push forward with our CPR and first aid training community. We now have on staff several first aid and CPR instructors who are getting inundated requests for classes, which is really great to see.
So I always like to tie what we're doing with the goals that you guys set for the town manager. Just wanted to touch upon a couple as we go through. So we're continuing to seek alternative revenue sources, including grants. We've been very successful in this goal, in this venture. So we have several initiatives that generate additional revenue for the department and for the town. I'll touch on a few in a few minutes. Continue to promote dialogue. I don't think there's a better example of goal number 3A than Deputy Chief Larissy and his work with the businesses in the community. We certainly go above and beyond to make sure that we're both accommodating and making sure that we're flexible in the way we work with them and go through the permitting process. We're responsive. We try to be expeditious as possible when we're doing that. So continue to identify recommended changes. Again, Tom alluded to the community response social worker. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes as well. But that's one way we really we saw a real need and the need to pivot and reinvest existing dollars into a different program because it's it's definitely a community need. So, and then the other thing we do is constantly concerned of cybersecurity. Work with the IT director. One of the initiatives we've tried as a department is to use things, take advantage of things that are in the cloud, and use that as kind of our cybersecurity strategy. So it's off premises, it's out there, so we can access it from anywhere. It offers us more resilience. We don't have to be sitting in the building to access our information. Like we have electronic health records. They're all hosted off premises, off-site. It's managed by a private company, and it's very secure. So those are some of the ways that we here in the fire department support the town manager. So our apparatus maintenance repair program. So in the spring of 2021, we started this venture where we started fixing other communities' fire apparatus. And since then, we've taken in approximately $250,000, $250,000 in gross revenues. It cost us about $50,000 in labor, and after everything else, we've netted over $100,000. A little less than 18 months, about 16 months. So. That has become a popular program. I field phone calls on a weekly basis from fire chiefs. Again, part of the whole crisis that we're in is a labor shortage. Then there's also supply chain issues with auto parts and truck parts. So, that's clogging up the maintenance and repair facilities in the region. So, we're helping taking pressure off of those places. So it's kind of a nice initiative. community response social worker. So again, this is a collaborative venture between police and fire. We had an open administrative assistance position. It was part of the Unit B steelworkers. I talked to Mr. Keegan. I said, hey, listen, I said, I think, with some of the technology that we've kind of introduced to the department, even though we're doing close to $2 million a year in detail, which detail revenue between stadium events and welding details, that's a tall order for one person. But I think we can pitch in and we can get through it. We really need this community social worker. The police really need it. We really needed it. Chief Grace agreed to commit some funding to it as well to make up some differences in the budget shortfall to bridge the gap with the position. And we're really excited. So like I said, we're leveraging an existing position and we're meeting changing needs. This is kind of the third prong of our holistic response to public health, really. We have the emergency medical services piece, which takes care of the short term. Tom and his role as the public health nurse and the people that support him is kind of a mid-range, kind of function that they take care of people. Now we have the kind of longer term with the community emergency response social worker. They'll be able to get services to these people and manage them on a more long-term basis, where as the public health nurse, it's more short-term. So it's kind of exciting, and it really didn't cost the taxpayers any money. We were able to get a grant to outfit this person with like a laptop computer and some of the necessary like accessories for the position. And we were even able to leverage local public health revenue that we've generated through our vaccine program and our COVID testing programs, and purchase this person a small vehicle so they can get around. So again, it's truly zero cost to the taxpayer that we're able to provide this service. So I think it's a great example of how we're trying to be innovative and change, existing operating to accommodate future needs. Just wanted to touch real quick on some of our future challenges. We're having a real issue with supply chain. Medical equipment's expensive. It's hard to get. The cost is through the roof with a lot of the stuff. Truck parts, things like that. Vehicle acquisitions have been really difficult over the last 2 years. We're still trying to get those ambulances that we ordered. We can't get staff vehicles that have been approved. Norwood Hospital is a challenge. We kind of touched on that. And then our staffing, if you go to the next slide, you'll really notice our staffing. We truly do more with less with our staff. If you look at again, this is just another year comparison to the SEMRECC towns. We are the second busiest compared to Easton. We're the smallest community, and we're also the smallest budget. So we are, Norton and Easton both have 10 firefighters a shift. Mansfield has 9, and we have 8. So that's something we're looking to address in the future. And that's it. Any questions? Try to make it as brief. Am I on time?
A little over, but
We're
I do have
always over.
2 questions.
Getting better.
Yeah,
I thought when you get up, I thought you were leaving.
he's always stretching.
I said, we
So,
lost talk.
Halfway through, I gotta say.
I do have 2 questions. Actually, the train fires came up last night. Those feel like they've calmed down, knock on wood. Have those, remember how we were having a bunch of those stopped?
So we got together with Mansfield and we worked with the railroad to identify, we had to do a lot of investigation to figure out how this all happened. There was a company in Taunton that was the last stop. So the trains would come out of Boston, come down around like through Middleborough, I think, come back up through Taunton. Then they would get on what's called the Northeast Corridor. That's the main line between Boston and Providence and Washington, D.C. ultimately. That has the catenary system for the Acela trains, which is electrical wires. So when they were loading these cars from a recycling plant in Taunton, they would be stuffing construction debris. Part of it was the issues with recyclable construction material going to China. It was now going to the Midwest. That was all getting stacked up on the cars, and then it was hitting the wires when it would go into the Northeast Corridor.
Okay.
So the simple fix, they put snow fencing down, and they keep snow fencing on top of the railroad cars, and then they don't allow debris to stick on the lid of the car.
Okay, problem
So
solved.
yeah, got that done.
All right, and then the other thing, I feel like, Corey, this might be you too, the locker, the closet with all the Foxborough Fire swag with Christmas coming up. Is that all pretty stocked right now? If anyone has any last minute needs, they're always a great gift. What's it looking like over the next week?
There's plenty of t-shirts in stock.
Okay.
I know the guys at the station are gonna put an order together for some sweatshirts.
Okay,
So there should be plenty of stock.
okay, all right, great. Go stop by.
Just a comment, I've lived in other communities, so I think it's remarkable what I see here with the Foxborough Fire Department. You know, you have public health, a really robust public health program. You certainly fight fires because that's your core mission. You know, the healthcare, EMS, paramedic piece of your business is just phenomenal, and it's supporting an increasingly large population in the area. Cybersecurity, SEMRECC, the stadium. The way you've diversified the department is just remarkable, Chief.
Thank you.
And I'm just wondering, was that a part of your plan or a vision, or did it just happen? And what's the state of some other towns? Because I don't see this in the other towns that I've lived in, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we're very fortunate. You know, we have a great team. We have some really talented, we have a diverse group, you know. He's a registered nurse, has a heavy healthcare background. Dave has a construction background. He was on the other side as a contractor. He understands the struggles of working with the bureaucracy of so he's very sensitive to that. Tom was a civil engineer. You know, I worked in healthcare myself. We have a diverse kind of set of eyes on things, and I think that we're not afraid to try new endeavors, and we're not afraid to fail at something if, you know, but some of it was planned, I'll admit. And so, hiring him 6 months before COVID.
I mean, that was really the most, between buying the building for SEMRECC and hiring him right before COVID, those are like the
That was
two
a great move.
most, genius moves.
So we were very, like I said, we're agile. We're always willing to try to change with the times and see what's down the road. Certainly, you know, especially in New England, the fire service is one of the oldest professions around. It's traditional. So we still have respect for our traditions, but, you know, definitely not afraid to try new things.
They don't call him Irish Mike for a reason. You know, sometimes you'd rather be lucky than good, right?
That's
right. But having said that, Mike, and it's close to all you guys here in the department. It's one of the most extraordinary departments I've ever worked with in 40 years, and I mean, you guys just continue to amaze me with the ideas you come up with, and you know, some of the, Mike shows up on my doorstep with these crazy ideas, and I say, okay, now really think about this, let's really break this down. And he does, and next thing you know, by the time he leaves, he's got me believing it's gonna work. And usually it does, usually it does. So it's really quite remarkable, and I appreciate the constant ideas that flow from this department, but you know, it also goes to the fact, and this is Dave Larissy works with the building department, and it's a seamless team. I mean, they work really, really well together. I mean, you know, we finally were able to get that figured out, you know, with a good team there now, so it's working out really, really well, so.
You did a great job.
So I thank you, but I think, you know, because of the fact that you were part of that team that helped select that guy, and Scott does a terrific job, and you know, the fact he has a fire background, which is also helpful, you know, in that respect too. So I think really, you guys do a trick, and Tom, you know, Tom also has the understanding and the knowledge and the history of the department, so he's seen it. Tom's seen it probably more than anybody, how it's evolved, right, over time.
Yeah,
right?
it
You
really
have.
is impressive, you guys.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
really
just,
is.
I know we talk about it often, but it truly is impressive. And ahead of the curve and cutting edge and, you know, thank you.
Yeah, and we really wouldn't be able to do it without, you know, your support, and obviously Bill's been a huge advocate for us for his whole career here. It's been a tremendous working relationship. You know, we've really enjoyed, you know, Bill's given us the freedom to pursue a lot of these crazy ideas. So it's really nice. And the working relationships between the department heads it's the best I've ever seen. You know, Chris Gallagher, the highway department, even in our own building with Chief Grace, I mean, we talk every day. And we're working together. This crazy social worker idea came out of a cup of coffee that we had together. So it's, you know, it's really.
Not only do you guys have great ideas, but then you implement them and put, you know, a lot of people throw ideas against the wall, but you guys really make it happen.
There's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know something, you think they're gonna come before, like, I think, okay, here comes the fire department, and you just think, we're gonna hear the same old update, and you both departments bring so much more information to us and to the community, you know, with the technology. You know, it's funny, because you talk about Tom. When I was on AdCom, I was one of the fire liaisons, and I remember sitting down with you, and at the time, Chief Hatfield said, these two are going to present to you guys, and I remember the spiel you gave us. And I think I think it was Larry Uwe, myself, and Sean McCarthy, and we sat there, and I think at first I'm like, I don't know, but you were saying how cutting edge that position was going to be, and that you were ahead of the curve, and then boom, COVID hit. So,
Right.
you know, it might be like, you know,
I mean,
Bill
couldn't
we
have been
trust,
better.
and Mike we trust too.
Exactly,
You know what I mean?
right.
Mike we trust.
no,
Yeah. You know, it's very impressive, you know, the technology, you know, everything. You guys, every time you come before us, you have, we may have gone over, but it's good
Yeah.
information.
It is, it's not
It's
just.
and it's
stuff we know.
interesting information, it really is.
Could we go over for just another second?
Of course, yeah.
I just wanted to ask quickly, any technology challenges? Is the technology that you're utilizing keeping up with your demand and what you need it to do to save lives and help people?
Yeah, I mean, there's always things we could probably do technologically better. I mean, there's things intrinsic to the building that we could probably, like the phone system. We're still operating on the phone system from 2006. So that's one challenge, like IP-based phones. We could probably provide a better service to our citizens if we had a better phone system. So that's something we'll be looking for. You know, we have some ideas on how to make that affordable and better, but certainly, you know, we're always evaluating new medical equipment, and we've been very successful with grant funding. So we're able to offset a lot of our capital expenses, you know, our capital outlay expenses with grant funding, so we've kind of able to do that, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head that, you know.
Okay, so you have an awareness of that, so the phone system is something that we need to keep an eye on to make sure that it stays viable and functional, and it's great, thank you.
You know what I find amazing is you guys have been here for 40 minutes and not knock on how long you've been here. You guys are all firefighters, and it's the Foxborough Fire Department. We talked about maybe 3% about fires.
Yeah.
And everything else was about everything else you guys do,
Innovation,
which is incredible.
I was trying to keep it different. I talked a lot, we had the fire right before we came before you guys, and there was a lot of talk, and I didn't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of the time talking about the fire operation last time, so I want to keep it interesting for you guys.
Yeah,
You
good
did.
job,
You did.
good job.
Yeah.
So did you want to take Schneider Electric up on their offer?
Yes.
That's all Dave thought of.
Yeah, it connects into Seth's update later. We actually just toured the auditorium and the Pratt School, so let's add that right to the list as well.
Yeah, so if you want to you figure out a good time for the board, and then a couple dates maybe, and then I'll offer them up to Dave McMillan and see
Yeah.
what works for him.
Yeah, for sure.
We did see the building not too long, that's where these chairs
I've never
came from.
been in it.
You've never been in it?
And
Sorry,
I don't
so-
think anyone here has ever.
So it's an
been in it,
extraordinary
so-
building, it's huge.
And
We
I
saw the
think-
new building, we got a tour of the new building, but not the old one.
And I think if you saw the old building before and you saw it now,
Yeah, it's amazing.
just the vast open space now of, like, we're so used to seeing it, you know, with a couple 100,000 square feet of machinery, and then all of
Right.
a sudden it's gone. You walk in, it's like, there's not even desks in there anymore. There's not
And even
office.
understanding some of the outbuildings too, like, I think I know what's theirs, but just even seeing some of that might be interesting, I think.
Yeah, and it's, you know, they're doing they're proud of what they're doing. I think they'd like everyone to see what they're doing too.
Yeah, they told us they basically were
Yeah.
like 100 years worth of like sticking things in your mother's basement.
Yeah.
You know, and the amount of stuff they had to clean out was literally decades worth of like, oh, Foxborough tons of room, just stick it there, you know?
Yeah,
so.
and picture cleaning out your basement, but everything you touch has to be, you know, has to be like treated like it's a hazmat. Like,
Right.
you know, like that it's hazardous to you, that it has lead paint, that it has asbestos, it has some chemical they use during processing. So it's been pretty painful for them to actually undertake this project, and they've done a great job at it.
Definitely take you up on that.
Yeah, so that's
It's pretty amazing
Good job to you,
space.
Dave.
Happy
Thank
holidays.
you.
All right, thank you very
Thanks,
much.
guys. All right.
All right, so up next, we have the 2023 license renewals, and I know Katie sent those out earlier. So, you know, the Board of Selectmen are responsible for the license renewals for alcohol, common victulars, entertainment, auto, movie theater. I think we even have one, like, limo taxi license in there. So we do have a full list. Katie has put a ton of work into that. I have reviewed the list. I had a couple questions. I don't know, is Katie still on?
She is. She's
She might have a
on
quick
right now.
update, okay.
Hey, guys.
I think we lost the board in here.
Yep, give Mr. Beck a second.
There are a couple of late adds to the list, too.
I think, well, so kind of like Union Straw was in here, their license is under Kitchen Partners, but I had asked her to add the DBA name. So that's what the ads were, was like, Subway, you would have never known what name they weren't necessarily late ads, but they were sending the DBA names out so that we would recognize them.
Ms. Katie?
I did also ask about, is everyone up to date on taxes? That came up last year, things like that. So Katie, if you can just give us a quick update.
Yeah, sure thing. So as Leah said, so there was nothing updated. It was just from what I sent.
It's a little bit tough to hear you. I don't know if you could put the speaker a little closer to your mouth on your headphones. No.
It's on our end, I think.
Can you turn the room controls up? No? It's all the way up, okay. So just speak really loudly, Katie, please.
Okay, I don't want to get too close to the
That sounded
video,
good though,
but
what
let me
you're
know
doing,
if you
so keep it
have any
close and-
problems.
yeah.
But so as Leah had mentioned, everything that I sent Saturday was just updated with the DBA, so it was a little bit easier to follow along on that sheet. I know it's kind of a lot of information, but I think we're getting better as the years go on in terms of just sectioning everything out. I think I first started with this enormous Excel that was kind of like my baby when I first started. So I think we've come a long way. But as you can see, we have a grand total of 142,000 of revenue generated. It's 206 licenses total. We're up about 10,000 from last year, and that's mainly due to from Shoveltown, Fat Tuesday, and Crazy Axes. And as Leah had also mentioned, I'm working with finance on who has any outstanding bills in terms of property, water, and real estate taxes. Anyone that has an outstanding bill has been notified as of today, just saying, if you're not settled, your license will be held. And we are on break next Friday at 12:30. So I've never had a problem with anyone not paying. Once I send that email, everyone kind of just calls finance and settles up. So I'm not worried about that. And then the second department that I work with is the building department, just to make sure that all of their annual inspections, they just give me the green light and I can send their liquor license out. And that's just really important that they're in compliance with building. And then of course we're looping in Chief Grace. Should anyone still be in a failed state with the building department, Chief Grace will be notified next Friday. But again, I don't really foresee that happening, but it's just a lot of moving parts for the next, week and a half.
And how many, we don't have to say any by name, but how many licensees either don't, are not in compliance with the inspections or have, I would say kind of grossly overdue fees? Are we talking just a handful?
Yeah, I'd say a handful in terms of building, maybe 10. But again, these are inspections that have happened and maybe they've said, oh, you need to update this, or, this sprinkler head needs to be replaced in their kitchen. So it could be something really minor, but they're either on Lisa Barry's schedule to follow up, or they're waiting for a part to come in and then we'll reschedule, a follow-up from their first inspection. And then in terms of invoices, I'd say between all three, property, water, and real estate, I'd say I probably have 20 businesses. But they're not grossly overdue. It would just be that they're missing the last quarter. So.
Okay, yeah, I think, especially in good faith, if people are waiting for parts and stuff, we don't want to hold up anything. So with that, I don't have any questions on the list. Does anyone else have any questions? No? I think you laid it all out there that we have no questions, Katie, so I think we're ready for a motion on that one.
Great. Motion to approve the 2023 license renewals, including alcohol, common victualler, entertainment, auto, movie theater, and limo/tax/livery.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, great work on that, Katie. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, great. So capital improvement planning requests.
So this is on me. So we essentially have 6 items that were reviewed by the Capital Improvement Committee, 4 of which are being slated for funding at the special town meeting coming up in January. They are in ascending order, the CD ascending order, rather. The laundry building demolition, the additional funding for that project, which is about $200,000. The taser replacement program, which is the first year of a 5-year program, roughly about $50,000, $49,844 to be exact. The fire replacement vehicle, that's an additional $9,250 for a vehicle that has already been ordered, but the cost of some of these vehicles, it continues to climb, so they've had to supplement some of these orders. The joint public safety garage doors, that is a free cash item. The doors are essentially failing in the front, and so they have to replace them sooner rather than later. The staff vehicle, that's for the social worker that we talked about earlier. The person's going to obviously need a vehicle to get around, so we're trying to identify a good place to buy one. It's hard to find a vehicle, by the way. That's another challenge unto itself. And then on the school side, on the library side, we have a $30,000 request that was approved for new carpeting, but that will be through their existing budget. So so both the social worker and the library budget will be used to fund both those items. The laundry building, the taser replacement, the fire staff vehicle, which that funding comes from the ambulance fund to begin with, and to replace the garage doors come from free cash. So those 4 items will go to town meeting for consideration. And all 6 items were recommended by the committee on a unanimous vote. Dennis, unfortunately, was unavailable to attend that day, so due to illness. But the rest of the committee voted unanimously in favor.
All right, any questions on that? I know I sat through AdCom and listened to the fire ones.
Fine with the items. I would like to I've said this before, I'd like to move away from using free cash for any operating or capital items. I mean, if we have some kind of capital improvement fund, we could stop using free cash. I understand, we can identify the uses of free cash here, but it's always, I go back to the sources of free cash, and that process to me is very opaque. What's our target free cash recharge this year, Bill?
It's $2 million.
So this is the $300,000
Yep.
that we would utilize for this, these items is a fraction of the total free cash recharge, of which who knows where that comes from, so I'm just always in favor of moving away from free cash usage for operating and capital stuff.
I'm not sure what other source you could use under the circumstances right now.
So what I'm suggesting is utilizing a capital improvement fund.
So you have a very limited capital improvement fund at this point. We're trying to recharge that as we speak. So that fund is it's like about $200,000.
Right, so that wherever the 2 million free cash recharge is in the same budget here, use that.
So you'd like to split the free cash to free cash and capital improvement?
Yeah, I mean, free cash is not a line item. It comes out of
Yep.
other places that nobody really knows where it's gonna come from.
Yep, the give backs.
But somebody knows, and I don't know. We should, this board should know where that is intended. So to move away from this opaque recharge practice, we just stop spending free cash out the back end, and then we don't have to we just have free cash as a X number of dollars. It's the right percentage, that's part of our policy, and we don't touch it unless we really need to. It's a reserve, so.
I'm not sure that's a fair analysis, though, Seth. Because it's been pointed out very clearly where the free cash comes from. It comes from really 2 sources. One is an overestimation or underestimation, rather, of fees that come in. The second main source is money that comes back from individual budgets by the end of the year. So when you close out, that's what you have, is additional money that goes into to create a free cash balance. That's a number that can go in any one direction in any one year, given the circumstances. Obviously, during, we just came off a serious situation where we had virtually we really limited our income based upon because of COVID. Now that's coming back, and you may see actually a pretty good a good free cash position, not just this fiscal year, but the next fiscal year. So I think, it's one thing to state a policy where you want to create a certain amount of money that's used for free cash each year, not to exceed in terms of a capital plan. I can understand that, but to say that there is no place where no explanation where that comes from, is not a fair analysis. I think it clearly comes from that process. The question is, I think your question is, Seth, is, what's our policy for spending as a town money from free cash for the purposes of impacting our capital program? That's a fair question.
So that's not actually a question, Bill. That's it's more of a statement. I would prefer that we do not use free cash for capital improvement projects.
How do we fund them
But how would you fund them?
today?
With
Like,
a
the ones
capital
we wanna do?
improvement fund that we fund over time. And
But
part
we
of that,
don't, but we haven't, we did that at one point, and then we used it for a capital project. Now, we're in the process of rebuilding it, but you still have capital needs throughout the course of a fiscal year. So you can't just not fund those things without,
we're gonna fund them with free cash. We're gonna spend free cash and then we're gonna fill it back up. If we take a look at free cash sources and uses over the last 5 or 10 years, we'll know where the free cash sources are, and we'll pinpoint them, and we can say, okay, every single year, X number of dollars is coming back from this bucket or that bucket. And if that's not the case, then, I could let it be, but so I would like to see that. So if we could see the sources of free cash over the last 5 or 10 years trended, which I know we have, because Marie has given me individual years, then we could do that analysis and say, here's the source of free cash. It comes out of these 4 line items, year after year after year. And so these are the sources. We can utilize some of this money that we're dropping it, we're recharging free cash with. We can drop this money into our capital improvement plan, as an example. So.
I think it's a good idea, but I think we need to do that up front. I think it's a good discussion, but where we're at right now with the capital improvement and the things that need to be done, unfortunately, that funding source doesn't exist, so.
So, I mean, I've heard that argument before, that it's essentially it's too late argument, and, that's fine. This is a small amount of money, frankly. This is $300,000, $400,000. So it's not, I'm in favor of the items. It's just the policy and the approach that we're using that I'm.
So I think I'm all in favor of a policy discussion on something like that. But I think to stop a practice right now to hold up the policy, to create a policy first, I think you can do both. You can do it structurally in a way that addresses your question, and also, Maria actually shows you in the document, the 10-year average, where the money comes over 10 years. She's shown that. So the money's available.
I've seen individual years, Bill. Maria's shared that with me, and I can see exactly where the sources of the free cash are, which is great. I would like to just take a look at that over time, identify trends. I am fine with this.
Okay.
I'm not trying to hold this up. I don't think.
And I think we just have to look at that to see if it makes sense. I understand where you're coming from,
Yeah.
but look at the sources, and do they change? I think the flexibility, I understand why the flexibility is there, because you kind of may have an idea, but you never know. Like, we never knew COVID was gonna hit, or some of the returns that we had there.
So you can do that as part of this next budget cycle. You come up with a policy. That's it, which is
That's a
fine.
very good idea.
I have no concern over
You take that as a follow-up to Marie?
Yeah, I'll take that follop as a.
Oh, she's watching. Okay,
Yeah,
even
she's
better.
watching. So I do think that's a fair policy discussion.
Great.
But, but not it would be like throwing the brakes on in the middle of a process right now that we currently have. That's the only one we got. So I think my point is that you can do both and achieve your goal, which would set basically a guideline going forward, It would also say, look, this is how much we're gonna have to spend on capital over the next year, but which will evolve from year to year, because you're gonna have more free cash in the position from year to year.
I think that's a reasonable approach, that
Yeah.
we take a look at it.
Right.
Rather than, you know,
Yeah,
Because if you
all
followed
for
that
that.
policy and you sat down and you said we weren't going to use the free cash, maybe you wouldn't approve the laundry building this year. Maybe you would say, okay, we know we're gonna recharge. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
using that as an example.
Yeah.
You know, you might say, well, okay, well, we know we're gonna have a good recharge, so
Yeah.
we're gonna hold off on that project till next year. Like, I get what you're saying, if you use the policy, and then there'll be some
If we were just
hard
ignoring a
decisions.
policy
Hard
in that way, I
decisions
could
that-
understand
for this
that.
year, Stephanie, the target is $2 million.
Yeah,
Right. And we'll hit that. We'll
Much,
hit that.
much significantly higher than the numbers we're talking about
Yeah.
here. Yet, we're still using this free cash, so
Yeah.
the money's going out and coming back in, and it's hard to track. It's hard to follow.
yeah.
Again, it's transparency I'm looking for. Fine with this,
But I think that it is hard to track and follow, because that's the nature of where free cash is coming from.
Right.
You're guessing of a budget going forward, and that budget or line item, health insurance, the last couple of years, we budgeted more than what health insurance was. So where's that extra money gonna go? To
Yeah.
free cash. That's gonna turn around this year, because
Yeah, it's gonna be more expensive this
it's
year.
more expensive, but what I'm saying is, you're trying to get something stable that's a moving target, and
if we look at the data, it'll.
Just bridge it a little bit, you know, however
Yeah.
you can bridge it, I get it.
And you know what, too, if we see the sources giving back at the end, then maybe there needs to be a discussion with, with that department's budget at the beginning.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, if you see, listen, all our public safety, just an example, all public safety stuff it's wonderful, everything's wonderful, but, I sat and listened to you ask Chief Baker to cut $50,000 from his overtime line, and he said, no, I can't. And then at the end of the budget process, there's a give back of $50,000 to fund something else. That was the year that, I think, when Randy was leaving, and there was, unfortunately, money that, we didn't know how that was gonna play out. So I think what you're saying about just tracking where it's coming from is, maybe it's
Yeah,
not
I
the
think-
discussion for tonight.
Yeah,
but
I think
in the
we all
future.
kind of get it,
Yeah.
agree, it will always be kind of somewhat of a moving target, but to kind of understand where it's coming from would be a good thing.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, because it is late, this is a big discussion. It's
Yeah.
not a small discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've worked in the private sector, I've worked in the public sector, and these issues are intertwined always. The capital budget and the operating budget really affect each other. So you have to look at them as a peer, and from year to year, it's going to change. The operating performance is going to change year to year, given the challenges, and that's going to affect the amount of capital that's going to be available. And that's all predictable.
Right.
Really, from a budget point of view.
Well, and you know what, it would be nice too to, you can never predict exactly, like Bill said, things come up, okay? But we just, we funded a lot of stuff last year with that surplus of money that we had that we might not have. And then, I know there was some talk about the garage door, so we have to do a good job. And this laundry building has, that's been on everybody's radar for a long time. So, maybe some of the stuff should have been when we had all that surplus of money, and that should have been there when we know it's coming, where some of the stuff I sat at that meeting last year, and we just said, well, the money's here, and we're gonna lose it if we don't spend it. We only had a certain amount, so we were just like, yep, fund it, because the money was there, and why wouldn't we wanna use it? We may have, some of that stuff maybe we wouldn't have funded, knowing that some of the stuff that's important was coming up.
Well, in that particular situation, you had a number of things on that list that had not been funded in a couple of years.
Yeah.
And this was the opportunity to fund it because you had the money.
Yeah.
That was the difference. So,
All right, so let's table that. I think we'll take that. Marie's watching as well. But for this item, I think we're ready for a motion on this one.
Okay, motion to approve the capital improvement planning committee recommendations for project funding as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Leah,
Yes.
before you go on, under all the licenses, there was another section, the Lakeview Extended Service Request.
Yeah, I think that's under, there's an
further
action
down?
item. Yeah, there's an action item, so
Oh,
I
I'm sorry.
intentionally
I didn't
skipped
see
over
that
one,
further
sorry.
down. Okay.
All right, so the next one, the town meeting warrant. All things willing, we'll have town meeting on January 30th, but we do need to take action on the warrant and approve it as it is this evening. So, Bill, I think we've all seen this a number of times. Are there any major changes to call out at this point? I did present to AdCom Articles 1 and 2 on Wednesday night.
this is the last time you've seen it. There aren't any real major
Okay.
changes to it, no.
Okay, any questions from the board before we move for a motion?
Just, what's the backup date that we picked?
January 30th.
Not you.
No, the backup
Oh, the
is
backup-
February 13th?
Yeah, it's the 13th,
Yes.
February
That's
13th,
correct,
yes.
yeah.
Okay,
Right.
Yep.
okay.
All right, so I think we're ready for a motion on that one.
Motion to approve the January 30th, 2023 special town meeting warrant.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, great. So the next one, I added a budget direction discussion because we obviously had the summit, but we never formally took a vote like we did in years past with, do we want to decrease services, have level services, or level, I forget what it's, level budget with enhanced services. So, while it felt like we had consensus in the room, we as a board have not had a chance to discuss this and formally take a vote. So it seems like everyone, wants the level services budget. I don't know that we need to, do we want to get into head count? I think we all kind of have an understanding that we're not looking to add new positions, more of the creativity that we saw from Chief Keller tonight. But any discussion before we take a motion on what it felt like we talked about coming out of the financial summit? I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page and formally take a vote, especially with Bill, transitioning out mid-year. I just wanted to formally dot the i's and cross the t's on this one.
Didn't, if I'm not mistaken, did last year, did we give a direction as far as the percentage-wise?
No, we didn't. We just did the
Were we
level.
at 3?
Well, yeah, I think
3.5?
this year, we talked about it going up to 3% this year. And I think last year we tried to go up to 2.5, but then we got close to that, but we never actually got, we actually were
Yeah,
like right in
I
between.
thought
Two
but
and
the
a half,
vote-
2.5, and it was closer to 3, yeah.
The
Close to
vote we
3, yeah.
took was level services, was the vote.
Right.
We had,
Yeah, ultimately.
reduced services, level services, and level
We tried to get it
services
to
with
2.5, but, it ended up
And I
being
think
close
that's, kind of, I think everyone would like to keep it there. I
Keep it
think,
at 3.
would like to see it below that for sure. But definitely the level services, no new, I don't want to put a hard and fast on it, new positions, that's the intent. But if something really crazy came up, it's obviously still a discussion down the road as well. So any other comments on that? No? All right, I think we're ready for a motion on that one. I would just add level services into that motion as well.
Okay, motion to approve the FY 2024 budget direction for an increase up to 3% in level services.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you.
All right, Bill. Some of your town managers update we've covered, and,
Yeah.
we can obviously all see the positions here. We've heard about some of them, so anything else to add under those
No,
items?
I mentioned the Innovation Award. There was I did meet with the Audit Committee during the past 2 weeks as well, and I also met with the group that came before the board looking to try and do something with the retiree thing. We did meet with that group and met with the actuary. So there'll be further discussion on that and for the annual town meeting, not for this next town
Okay.
meeting. So I think those are the key items for me, and just want to wish everybody a merry, happy very happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.
And happy Hanukkah.
And it was the best breakfast I never came to. I
Yeah,
never got to go to.
Milton unfortunately was sick and did not make it to his own town manager's breakfast.
I just paid for it, that's all.
But I have to say, closing down town hall,
Was a good move.
I think is
yeah.
the right move
It
and a
is
good move,
yeah.
and we need to do that going forward because it
Yeah.
definitely had a different vibe
It did.
in the room with
It
people
did.
staying, hanging out, spending time together versus like a flyby.
Yeah.
You know, drop into the buffet and leave like you're on a cruise. or something.
I have to admit, I had my druthers about that because I want to make sure that, we keep the service going here. But, at the end of the day, I think Christina convinced me, as did you, that, it's an hour and a half out of the day,
Yeah.
and it really was a well-spent hour and a half out of the day. A lot of people get to talk to people they normally get to talk to.
Yeah,
so
it was really
good.
nice,
It was
so
actually
thank
very
you.
good. So-
It was very, very nice. I didn't get a chance to go last year. I had to work, so this was my first one, and how Leah said, I was kind of surprised, like, I
The
didn't.
room used to not be filled like that.
Yeah, because I don't know if I thought it might just be, people shopping in and out, so, first time for me to be there, walked in, I was like, wow, there's a lot of people here, and you know what, everybody works hard, it's a holiday party.
Right.
Everybody deserves to be able to attend and not run in and stuff something in their mouth and go right out the
Right,
door, so
right.
I support your decision as well, I think it was a good move.
Great,
For
thank you.
sure.
I'm glad you all enjoyed it too, but all of that could
We missed
attend at
you.
least, yeah. Thank you.
All right, so moving on to Selectmen's update. As I mentioned, advisory committee meetings did start last Wednesday. They'll continue on Wednesday evenings. I don't know if you have we intend when we have the calendar to have it updated to the AdCom page with how they will review articles. We are not meeting on January 3rd, just a reminder to everyone, but we do have a host of meetings in January. One on the 5th, remotely via Zoom at 5:30 to announce the finalists. I did talk to Bernie earlier today, and even I don't know who the 4 finalists are, but we're down to 4 finalists, so things can change. They're doing some background right now, criminal checks, education checks, employment checks. Someone could drop out, but as of right now, there are 4 finalists that we will be moving through to interviews on January 10th and January 12th. We'll have 2 interviews per evening, and we may reserve a half an hour just at the end to maybe discuss or deliberate as a board. This all will happen in open session. And then ideally, on January 17th, when we meet, we will actually be appointing someone as the next town manager. We'll take about 60 to 90 days for them to give their notice, negotiate contracts and such, but that's the timeline as laid out right now. And then in the middle of that, we have hostile meeting training also January 11th. So that will be a busy week, the week of January 9th, with quite a few meetings as well. I had saw actually Norwood does like a kind of candidates thinking of running for office night, and love a copy and paste idea. So we thought about doing that, and I mentioned it to Dan Peterson also from AdCom, who said he'd love to join forces. They're pretty low on AdCom numbers right now. They have a number of open seats as well. So we're looking. I know I mentioned it, and then before I even mentioned it to Bill, it had already been discussed in the department head meeting. So it seems like people in town hall are taking that and running with it. But, there may be an opportunity for some of us to come in, I don't know, be present, answer questions, whatever it may be. I'm sure Bob's office will be very
I think
involved
it's
as
a
well.
great idea.
Yeah.
Actually, a great idea.
Madam Chair, I spoke with Bob, and he's agreed to host it the day you can pull papers for open elected positions. It's going to be January 17th. So
Okay.
We'll have that before the selectmen's meeting on the 17th,
Okay.
probably like 5:30 to 6:30.
Okay.
And then
All right, great. So talk about just mentioning something and away with a plan. Everyone's run with it. So look for information on that. I know it can be really intimidating to run for office or to step up to AdCom, but hopefully, we have had some empty seats in the last couple of years, and hopefully this will make people more comfortable getting involved. All right. And then I do want to make sure everyone's aware that Station 1, Shoveltown, is opening on Thursday, and Everything Bagel opened last weekend. So it's exciting to see some new businesses and welcome them to town as well. And then just the last 2 updates, I wanted to turn over to Seth to talk about the Town Asset Review Committee and Dennis to talk about the Audit Committee update. So Dennis, if you want to start with the Audit Committee, and then we'll go to you, Seth, as well.
Okay, there were actually a couple of audit committee meetings, one in which Bob Brown presented the audit to the committee. Then there were some questions and follow-up things, so we came back again for an additional meeting on December 16th. I want to acknowledge the audit committee. Larry we, as the chair, Bernie Dumont, Paul I, we call him, and Brian Quinn, because this is a very important oversight committee for the board. And there hasn't been meetings in a number of years. Because there hasn't been meetings for a number of years, there's been no report to the board for a number of years. So Larry taking this on and getting that infrastructure back in place, I think, is probably the greatest accomplishment of the meeting coming together. When Bob came back, he did answer the questions on testing of expenses, accuracy of the pilot, payments for the state aid, accuracy of the meals tax. He answered all those satisfactorily. Then the committee talked about other areas in terms of this year's budget and broadening the scope of the audit. A lot of things were discussed. And where people ended up was really to do a deeper dive in the payroll area. What I should say, the number one point here is it was a clean audit. So at both meetings, it became clear that the audit was done well, as a clean audit, but there were some questions, particularly since things hadn't been really looked at in that kind of detail for a number of years. So the recommendation coming from the committee then the committee then voted to recommend to the select board to instruct the auditor to perform additional testing on payroll setup, including proper approvals, wages, and fraud. The committee also requested that the auditor review payment of stipends to employees and to board members as applicable. That was the recommendation.
Wonderful. So yeah, thank you to Larry and the rest of the board for that, because you're right, we had a couple of years, we have a clean audit, so there's no reason to miss this piece for really driving that, so thank you as well.
Dennis, any thoughts around best practice for utilizing an auditor for X number of years before we?
Right, and we're going to take that up. That was definitely a topic, because we've had the same auditor for a lot of years, and he's done a great job, but the best practice is typically 5 or 6 years, and we've gone well over 5 or 6 years.
So is that?
That's on the agenda for the next
Okay, great, thank you.
which I don't know when that will be. The other thing is the audit report should be issued by the end of March 2023.
Great, thank you.
Do we need to take a vote on that? or
No.
Okay.
No, it's just a report of the committee.
All right, Seth's update is also exciting.
Thanks, yeah, so the Asset Review Committee met, and the primary focus of that meeting was, as you know, Leah, the Pratt School and the auditorium behind the safety building. Those are two town-owned assets that have been sitting vacant and falling into disrepair even further than they have been over time. So, my thought around those assets was have some kind of plan and thought process, a plan around how to move forward with those, even if it's let them sit for another couple of years, let markets change, interest rates change, or whatever we want to do. But those are, large buildings that are just sort of falling apart, and there may be, just what are the options as a town, welcoming town input on what they think is the right thing for those assets. The Pratt School is in East Foxborough off of Cohasset, and that is zoned, the way it was explained, it's zoned only for single-family residential based on the neighborhood. So that restricts what we could do there. It's a small lot for a school. It's less than an acre. So we went, as you know, we went inside. The structure is an old stone foundation. It looks like there is, it would be challenging to demo it. So basically the way we left it is Paige Duncan, our town planner, resource manager. That's not our title, right?
Land use director.
Yeah, land use director.
So She is going to investigate, speak with some of her contacts in the industry, contractor, builder, and understand, just get a sense of what they think could be done, actually with both properties. And as far as the auditorium, the takeaway was to potentially engage the architect, the architectural firm that the town works with, to understand what could be done with the auditorium to bring it up to code, to either utilize it for town purposes, sell it. And as just from being inside the auditorium, it was, it was in disrepair, but I saw a lot of potential. It looked like something that could be utilized for, as it was intended, for meetings, maybe concerts, events, whatever. So it's early stages, but it's just understanding what the opportunity is to either sell, renovate, fix up. So it's early stages in those conversations, but that was, Paige has some takeaways, and so we'll be sharing more as we learn more.
And when will your committee meet again? Any talks about next meeting, or?
So I think we probably want to, so Lorraine is currently the chair, that we talked about a new chair, but probably be a conversation with Lorraine and Paige. Once we have more information to share, we could get back together. And I think that would be, within a couple of months. I don't think it would be a year out, because we just want to get a feel for what the possibilities and the opportunities are, even if it's just sell it. But, I mean, Paige mentioned that she brought a couple of prospective tenants into the auditorium, and I think they just looked around and said, it would take way too much work for them to sort of bite. So people didn't necessarily come back. So it feels like we would need to potentially invest a little bit as a town. And I don't know that there's a ton of money to be made in keeping it or selling it. But right now, in theory, it could be losing value just because it's old real estate that's sort of falling in disrepair. So
Yeah, and, we haven't really talked about these buildings in a while, so they're good discussions to have. Again, especially with the passing of the torch, to be, just kind of have a pulse and know kind of what the options are rather than them just sitting. So thank you for driving that as well.
absolutely.
Yeah, those have been mysteries for all of us for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
And we've checked off a lot of the boxes along the way, but those are two that have been really mystified us as to how to fix them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've, particularly the school, I mean, Lee and I have both been in town for a long time, and I first laid eyes on it a couple of weeks ago. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, this is cool, but it says right on it, it's Pratt School, 1903, and it's been vacant for years. So it needs some work.
Yeah, neat little place, and, Paige has some good ideas. Like, she's creative with what she thinks she can look into. She even wrote back to us about, there's like a little empty lot next door. She kind of dove right into kind
Yeah.
of researching things, so. All right, great. Any other updates for Selectmen's update before we move on to the 5 action items that we have? No? All right, so I think we're ready for the 5 action items.
Just go right into them.
Just go right into them, yep.
Okay, motion to approve the extended hours request for all Sundays in 2023 to begin serving alcohol at 10 a.m. for Lakeview Pavilion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve the November 22nd, 2022 Board of Selectmen meeting minutes.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Christina, for keeping up with those so diligently.
Motion to accept a $240 donation for Council on Aging Programs and Services by Flo Sierra and Kate Ryan.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Okay. Motion to accept a $10,000 donation to the Boyden Library Children's Department from the estate Donna Jane Campbell, former Boyden Library employee.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And motion to accept donations totaling $1,250 for new veterans markers from Sue and Sturvin Berlone, Robert Godin, and Kenneth Bryant.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Anybody know where they are? Because we accepted
I
some,
think about halfway,
oh, great,
maybe a little more.
great.
All right, great. All those in favor?
Aye.
And then just a motion to adjourn and happy holidays.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, just under further discussion, we'll see, no meeting on January 3rd. We'll see everyone on the 5th remotely. Everyone's comfortable with Zoom on the 5th? Okay, all right, great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, good night, everyone, thanks.
Night.